Ooh, we got something spicy today. So we're going copper to blonde, blondish. Here is our starting point. Ignore the fact that I'm talking. I tried to do a live voiceover, it doesn't work. But anyway, so it's a natural base 7. The ends are previous 640, which is just a deep copper in the base of 6, and the very ends were previously blonde. So what that means is we need to first do a strand test, and we need to see that it's all going to lift the same, and to do that we actually have to use different strength products on each part of the hair. But the main goal here is we want to go blonde. We want to create a starting point to a blonde transition that isn't a hideous mess between. I don't think any part of a colour journey should look gross, so let's not do that. Involved in our process today is some high lifting the roots, bleaching the ends, and lots of tonal work. We are going to be using a bleach which is a mixture between a clay and a high lift bleach. You can mix these two together. We're going to be using a high lift colour, and we're going to be using Shades EQ toner. As always, I will always explain things in a brand neutral sense, so don't worry if you don't use these products. We want to avoid anything uneven, we want to avoid too cool a toning, and we want to just avoid stressing the fuck out. This is where most people probably want to scream because it seems so illogical, but why am I using a high lift as the first step? So think about it this way. We did our strand test earlier and we saw that it was possible to get a pale, warm blonde. To make toning and our lives in general much easier later, we ideally want that pale, warm blonde to be a consistent lift throughout the whole head of hair. We need bleach to achieve that on the ends, but we can achieve that on the root with a high lift. By doing a high lift first, it means we'll actually have a visual cue of where to lift the ends to, and also it's much more comfortable for the scalp to do it as a first step as opposed to later on when the hair has been washed a few times. The formula will be on screen, explained in brand neutral terms. For step 2, essentially, we're trying to lift hair that has a couple of different levels in it and get as even a result as we can. So we're going to aim for the areas that have the most colour deposit, so the most copper areas, which is this midsection here. And we're going to then feather up to the roots, not getting rid of our high lift, just feathering it up to meet it. And we're going to skim towards the ends, running slightly onto them, but for the most part, we're leaving them out. The reason for this is because the ends of the hair were previously blonde. You can see they're a little bit lighter, so they'll just go way too blonde too quick. This is only 20 volume. Yeah, it was 20 volume that I used. And still, we just want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So you can see here again, I'm going on those denser copper areas. There is the root. We want to feather up in a zigzag motion. If you leave it as a straight line, you bet you're going to have a straight line. When all the bleach is on, I just pop foils over it in like 1-inch sections and allow them to develop. Try not to pull your model's hair in the meantime. And you can see here that it's lifting really beautifully, matching into the high lift, and those ends we're just going to now reapply. So key points, summary: we apply the bleach onto the hair that's the hardest to lift first. We apply foil over those areas. When we are nearly happy with the result, we're then going to reapply and bring it onto the ends for the last maybe 10 minutes and try get it to look as even as possible. We're almost there, I promise, and this is actually the bit that will scare everybody the most. So let's look at how we're going to tone this and turn it into something that looks natural and beautiful and makes all the undercoats happy. This is the crux of solving any colour correction, especially where there's different levels of lift or undercoats. 3 questions: what do we have, what do we need, and what do we use? The goal is an even warm blonde because of how the hair lifted. Anything outside of that is not realistic or sustainable. The first question: what do we have? We have 2 different undercoats here. On our midsection we've got the orange yellow, and then more towards the top and the ends we have more of a yellow. So what do we need? We need to softly neutralize our orange yellow as best as we can without being unrealistic, but for our yellow sections we actually need to probably add in some warmth. So that brings us to, then what do we use? I'm actually formulating quite simple here. So my goal is a warm, even blonde. So on the more orange yellow areas, I'm just using a natural. So in Shades EQ, it's an 09N. In every other brand, it's just a 9. A 9 natural over an orange yellow undercoat will give me a warm blonde. However, over those paler blonde areas, we need to supplement a little bit more copper into the formula so that it matches. I'm using 8C in Shades EQ, which is a very soft copper, so I'm using about 50-50 ratio. Depending on your brand, you might want to use a lot less. It's just to give it a bit tonality. Because I'm a perfectionist, I decided before doing my toner, I was just going to go around the face frame with some really fine little highlights, just to make it that little bit brighter. We're not in any way overlapping onto the bleach. So we're going in with our root formula, which was the 9N and 8C. And as mentioned in previous videos, the key with blending is that you apply in a sweeping motion. You don't put it on like a tint. So the brush needs to be moving with the product at all times, or you're going to get a line. You won't be able to blend it. End of story. My little trick for getting a really seamless blend is to use elevation. I also use what looks like a Barbie brush, but essentially I don't blend with a comb. I blend with a soft bristle piece of shit brush, to be honest. Like, use whatever cheap ones you have, and I brush everything upwards. I work it into the hair first, and everything is then brushed upwards to give a bit of elevation. Here you can see me bringing the root color through in large sections in really thick weaves. I've added in a little bit more of that 9N so that it's not as warm, but remember the undercoat on these midsections is warmer anyway, so the root and this area should balance out. I'm taking huge chunky monkey weaves with large weave, large gap, because it's only a 9, so in order to see any dimension we need to take big sections. I'm going to work that way, slanting up towards the parting, leaving out every second section for lightness. So it should look something a little bit like this. I left out a little bit more of the bleached hair around the face. Then we're going to go ahead and rinse that and then tone it all together. So when we rinse it, you can see it's already looking so natural, so blended. And my toner of choice is a 9AA and a 10WG. We made it. Pat yourself on the back. I know I definitely did. So I prepped the hair with a bit of Olaplex number 6 to really just smoothen down any frizz that can happen after such a big color correction. The hair looks super healthy. We always dry the front first, and I'm obsessed with this color. We did add extensions in, but I don't want them to distract from the color work. This is an extension course, but I'm just showing you that they match pretty well in. There's no tricks here. You can see the end result is quite blended. Where we broke the root with a high lift, we did tone down slightly, but it worked in our favor still to have the canvas underneath all the same. The goal at Emma is to go a much lighter blonde, but I think that this is a great starting point, and it's cosmetic and it looks realistic. Some key points just to refresh. Our first goal of any correction is an even starting point. You may use different vols, timings, and even products to achieve that even lift underneath. And when toning, we always assess what we have, what we need, and what we're going to use. If you enjoyed this tutorial, found it helpful, please do me a solid and like and subscribe. We're planning on moving a lot of stuff to YouTube this year, maybe making some longer form content, and we already have some educational shorts up on the page. So very exciting, and I'd love if you could support us in that. Also, if you want some more in-depth tutorials, we do also have a full education platform, like 20 of these videos, plus quizzes, typed notes, voice notes, everything like that. So all of that info can be found on my page. And until next time, thanks for watching.